Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Masha Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back. Today we're talking to Chris Mason about LinkedIn and its role in helping develop a career in product. Chris is the founder and director of Intelligent People. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good. Summer's coming, so I'm happy.
Yes.
Like all of us.
Yeah. It's coming here to the southern states. I think we're going to be in the 90s next week. So.
We're not that warm, but yeah.
It's coming fast.
Yeah, even in Toronto, which is with the north, it's also getting warmer. So we're happy about that.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Chris. Thank you for joining us. First, we want you to tell us a bit about yourself. So you are not a product manager, but you are a recruiter specializing in product management, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So Intelligent People, we've been trading for 20 years. We've been specializing in product all the way through that time. Product's obviously grown a lot and we've, kind of evolved with it along the way. But today, we work probably half with consumer businesses, half with B2B. It's about a 50-50 mix, and we specialize purely in product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you get to product? Because like you said, it's pretty growing and it's
especially right now. Yeah.
Especially right now. But 10, 12 years ago, when I was looking for my first product management position, all of the positions out there that I was seeing were for marketing, not for what we call these days product management. So tell us how you started and what the progression that you saw.
Yeah, so I remember the first product role I ever worked on, and it was actually with AOL. AOL way back in the day before they got acquired by Time Warner, and we used to do a lot of hiring for them in tech. And we had this product management role, and they said, we've got product managers in the US, we need to hire one in the UK, and we didn't know what it was. We thought, is this a project management role? Mm-hmm. So that's where our learning journey started, really. And back then we were kind of repurposing people, so we were looking for people from different backgrounds to move into product, maybe business analysis or project management, or possibly from marketing, depending on whether it was more commercial or technical. And if you think about in the early days, they'd have they'd start to have small meetups. All these product managers would try and clump together and form communities. It tended to be small scale in a pub, and here we are today with big global movements and incredible podcasts serving the community. So that's one of the things that's really changed. It's incredible, and companies are putting product thinking front and center. It's a strategic thing now, questioning why you're doing something, what problem are we solving, what value are we creating with what we do. Because back in the day, it was probably driven more by tech. So this is new technology, let's use it because it's new, as opposed to actually, should we use it? What's the business case behind this? And that's where product thinking comes in. So
yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, a lot of the community growth I've seen is because product is so diverse. You can come from all kinds of backgrounds and get into product. Moshe's come from a developer engineering background. I come from the business side of things, and we've kind of met on the product landscape.
Yeah. And also when we started, no one really knew what product was. But today you have people coming out of university wanting to be a product manager. It's incorporated into courses. It's really high profile as a discipline. It's being catered for by the education sector. So it's really high profile now.
Absolutely. And it's actually an interesting point because what I still see is that it's mostly in the private sector of education, that private schools that are teaching product management, not so much in the public ones or in the universities. Do you see that trend changing? Do you see universities starting actually having like a degree in product management?
I think there are modules. I think it's starting to appear. I don't know if there's a product management degree yet. I'd be surprised if that didn't happen because it's so high profile and it's gaining so much momentum. But I think it is included in as modules within tech degrees.
Not enough, I think so.
I kind of go back to how do you define product management? You can ask various people what product management is, and how would you put that into a coursework? What kind of classes would you ultimately have?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the problem. I think that's part of the problem in terms of defining it for academics.
It definitely could be part of it. Part of it, I think, it's that what you mentioned before about repurposing people, it's actually probably still going on, but you can tell us if you still see that, because I think I read some time ago, maybe last year, that probably 50% of product managers are coming from technical background and 50% are coming, I don't know if this is accurate, but are coming from more of the business and other type of background. And it's really like, you learn something. MBAs, that's the trend of getting MBA people into product management. But everyone should read Marty Kagan's articles about that. So there are problems with that too. So really, the only thing in our minds is that the best way to learn product is by doing it, not by learning it.
Right.
And maybe that could be one of the challenges of the universities, because they're more theoretical.
Yeah, I think that is and it's interesting. I mean, we don't often see clients asking for a certification. There aren't really degrees that specialize in product management, but it's commercial experience that they want. So often clients ask for, say, a technical degree or a numeracy based degree if you're working on a data platform or it's a data heavy product. But yeah, they don't tend to ask for certifications at the moment.
And in general, how different or similar product management positions recruitment is from other type of positions?
I think, it's definitely a specific discipline. It's a specific domain. And I mean, I love it because it's so diverse. If you think about product managers and the skill set, there's stakeholder management. So there's communication and influencing and use of data. We see all the time, database decision making and what data points do you track and how do you know what success looks like? Often there's technical aspects and then you've got industry sector and domain experience as well. So it's a really diverse role that involves project management, communicating, developing business cases and market analysis and competitor analysis, and it's really broad.
Yeah. Cool. So after this entire background, we want to dive a little more into a specific tool, because that's usually what the focus of our podcast is, products that product managers can use. And as Matt mentioned in the introduction, we want to talk with you about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the leading platform out there for professional people, and a lot of product managers are there. I would guess to say that all recruiters are on it. So
definitely.
You're a recruiter.
It's where we live.
You're a recruiter and you're not on it. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
probably. Yep. So tell us a bit about, what's the benefits of using LinkedIn for product managers?
So there are different angles to this. So it's a learning platform for a start, and it's obviously a networking tool as well. But it's the place that you go to be discovered if you want to be discovered. So building your profile and configuring it with the right data can make you really discoverable. But but how you go about doing that and the quality of the data affects how much noise you get that's irrelevant, and how targeted you are. But how easily targeted you can be with stuff that's relevant and of interest to you. I assume that everyone's on LinkedIn. It's very rare that it tends to be quite older CEOs that don't want to be on LinkedIn,
right?
But
they don't have a social presence.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they're trying to avoid that. They don't feel they need it. They network in other ways, or they're incredibly high profile and they don't want to be discovered. But yeah, let's face it, everyone's on LinkedIn. Everyone at university probably, and as soon as they leave, they realize that they have to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So how do you suggest for a product manager to get better on LinkedIn and get kind of surface above the noise?
Yeah, gotcha. So if we assume that you want to be discovered, if we're thinking about LinkedIn for career development, finding opportunities, I'd say the first thing you need to consider is when should you kind of skill up and code up your LinkedIn profile, because if you only do that when you're looking for a job, it's not very subtle, and it's a red flag to line managers if they think, oh, so and so's just updated their LinkedIn profile with loads of information about the best thing to do is do it straight away. Whenever you start a new job, whenever you get a promotion, just go in and update your LinkedIn. Everyone gets frustrated if you're bombarded with contacts. So if you want to be discovered for the right sort of thing, you've got to be quite descriptive in the way that you describe what you've done, and so a lot of that is the obvious stuff. So what is it that you're doing? What's the scope of your role? Are you working on a consumer product or something that's B2B2C or a SaaS product? Make sure you have that detail. LinkedIn has a 100 it tracks a percentage for how complete your LinkedIn profile is, so you should always try and aim to get that to 100%. So coding your profile is one thing, and having the right sort of information, so a balance of describing what you're doing and the scope of your role, and we kind of data points, we call them impact statements, so data points to describe the effect of your work and the things that you've done. So describing the scope of your work and your tasks and your duties, that's one thing, but if you kind of illustrate the impact of your work with a data reference point, so grew revenue from X to Y, acquired increase customer acquisition, reduce churn, increase customer satisfaction, or whatever, that shows the effect of your work. And if you think about somebody who works for, say, a SaaS software business, and you say I'm a product leader and I've done X, Y, Z, and then you add into that, and I grew ARR from 1 million to 10 million over a 2-year period, you're going to be, that makes you super interesting because you've gone through a scaling journey.
So not just what you did, but also what was the impact that you created in your job to the organization, and I guess also to the product specifically.
Yeah, definitely.
And to the users of the product, etc.
Yeah, and impact statements. I mean, we coach candidates to highlight this on their CV, on their LinkedIn profile, and in interviews as well. It was probably driven by Amazon. That's where we first saw it 10 years ago. They wanted people to use data reference points. So they want to hire people that whatever they do, they have an outcome in mind, they measure against something, and they know whether something is successful or not. Failure is fine as long as you understand it and you stop it, you kill something, or you test different variants or move in a different direction. The best way to show that you think in that way is to show the impacts as data reference points wherever you're able to.
So a lot of this is really, or maybe something else I had in mind to ask. So when I was doing my own job searches a few times in my career, I was always told to update my resume to the specific needs of the job and stuff like that. So to never send like a generic resume. Now you cannot really do that on LinkedIn. And I hated doing that because that was, like a lot of work. And in some ways, the recruiter or whoever it was suggested that I will focus on things and not other things and whatever it is, not to lie, but to maybe paint a different picture.
Yeah.
Where really like you are who you are and you have a lot of those different experiences or whatever it is. Do you see that changing because people are using more LinkedIn or things like that?
No, I think you can tailor your resume, for individual applications. I think LinkedIn is, it should give a general description of what you've done, and it should get you that first contact. So I think describing generally with impact statements, and that's why you really add as much detail as you can around your kind of profile, introductory statements, and then each individual role as well. And that's important because if you think about, say, a product leader that's managing a team of 2 people is very different to someone who's managing 100 people. It's a totally different scale of role and profile. And if you include that sort of detail, leading a team of 5, it means that you'll be approached about relevant roles that are at the right level. But to come back to your question, I mean, it's likely that you're looking for a role in a certain, domain area, and there may be specific things that the client's looking for, and you may well have done those, but you may not have gone into much detail on your resume. So I think it's really good to tailor your CV when needed and amplify the experience that you genuinely have, that is most relevant to that particular role. So I think LinkedIn keep general, but then definitely try and find out the hot points for each individual thing, and just weave in bullet points to try and amplify that and make sure that if you think about the journey your CV goes through, it might be the person who's hiring who looks at that resume first. It might be a recruiter, and they might not be an expert in product management. So try and make it simple for them by hitting those keywords.
So really, LinkedIn is not a copy and paste from your resume. It serves for different things. Therefore, the information in it should be structured, maybe, or written in a different way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, your resume should be tailored. I mean, it's probably not that much difference. Obviously, LinkedIn is very public, so there may be things that you might feel uncomfortable putting on LinkedIn compared to a resume, which is, obviously a much narrower audience will see that. But it's important that you have rich content on LinkedIn so that when recruiters go into LinkedIn and try and target and uncover people, whether they're recruiters within an organization or agency side, there are a huge number of filters that can be used. So job title, time in current role, education. There's probably 50 or 60 different filters. So the more information that you have, the more relevant the approaches are likely to be.
Right.
Yeah, this is cool. Kind of going back to your original point, is I always think of LinkedIn as like my brand platform. What you said about updating your profile whenever you're looking for a job, just, that being a red flag. I always think of like, hey, you should always be updating your LinkedIn. You should always be doing iterations on it as a product itself. Because I think of us as being a product. We are a brand, and we want to help promote ourselves on a career social site.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'd use LinkedIn for different things depending on where you are in your life. So if you're not job seeking, then use it to keep in touch with your network. So always build your network, connect to everyone that you have any contact with, because when the time comes where you're interested in hearing about opportunities, a lot of those might come from your network as well. People, if they're hiring for their team, the first thing they do is tend to share it on LinkedIn, and you won't even see that unless you're connected to people. I think there's a setting on LinkedIn as well, which is really important, which is open to opportunities. So if you don't want to be discovered, just make sure that is clicked to, not open to opportunities. It doesn't mean you won't be targeted, because, some people are paranoid about their boss seeing that, even though in theory, people within your organization, they can't see that setting. And if you do get discovered, you can always say, oh, I thought that was a default setting or something. You can try and finesse your way out of that. But
does that feature work well?
It does. It does. And this is another interesting thing about the way recruiters use LinkedIn. So there's often a certain profiler person that we're always looking for. And, recruiters set up a search so that when that tag is changed from not looking to opportunities to open to opportunities, we'll get alerts. So that's a really important tool for being discovered when the time is right for you. So I think the things to do all the time, as you said, is, work on your profile, make sure it's up to date. Everything that changes when you start a new project or you get a promotion or change job, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is updated, and, continually connect to people. When the time comes for you that you want to actively look at opportunities, then one of the main things, your profile will be ready, your network will be ready, and just change that setting to open opportunities. And, you should be targeted by people that are interested in you.
Very good advice.
Yeah. Now, LinkedIn also has features like, your just like your image that you're putting, your header, the header image. They have also like a video introduction that you can put instead of the image and stuff like that. Do you think these things are? I've seen a lot of like, sole proprietors that are trying to get more, people to find new jobs over there as freelancers. But do you think this is also important or can be useful for product managers when they look for their next or in general connections?
Yeah, I think it depends what you're trying to get from LinkedIn and whether you want to be high profile. So I'd say that most people, they want to use LinkedIn for networking, maybe learning, reading content, and looking for work when the time is right. But some people want to have a brand, and they want to be they want to be high profile on LinkedIn. It could be that you're interested in being on the speaker circuit, or you're writing a book, or you want to be seen as a domain expert in a certain area. And interims in particular, if you think about that, the interims, they change work more frequently, so they want to be recognized and seen as somebody who's good and is expert. So that sort of thing can be really, really, really useful. We're constantly looking at LinkedIn and how we can, we're looking at it in a slightly different way. We want to amplify our brand, Intelligent People, as a product specialist recruiter. So we're looking very closely at how the algorithms work on LinkedIn. And, if you think about your network, which might be, say, 1,000 people, for example, when you share a post, it's only a very small percentage of your network that will automatically see that in their feed. Right. But there are things you can do to increase, the eyes on your content. So, for example, if you're active on LinkedIn, if you make maybe 2 to 3 posts a week of sharing something that's relevant. Now, the more engagement that posts get, the more you'll bend the algorithm in your favor. So stuff that's relevant, or maybe sparks a discussion, if you get likes, comments, and shares, kind of replying to comments. And if you post something and you get a comment, or someone says something that's interesting, then reply to that comment and like their comment as well. So there's lots you can do to increase the percentage. I think the figure I have in my mind is something like only 2 or 3% of your network will see your post, but you can increase that massively if you're rewarded with, by the algorithm for being high profile. And, a bit like Google, they want to see, LinkedIn wants to see that you're doing genuinely interesting stuff that people comment on and share and engage with, and then they'll make your post higher profile.
Yeah. Moshe and I've had a lot of talks about the algorithm on LinkedIn. We use that as basically our main platform for this podcast, from promoting the podcast. And, I think we have a good community of listeners and good feedback on it, but it's always a question of when we're posting, what day you're posting, what time you're posting. All these different factors play into it in terms of getting traction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Our head of marketing, she says Tuesday to Thursday, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, that's the best time.
But even posting as a personal person versus posting as a company is different.
Difficult. Yeah. Sharing a post for posting words, posting pics.
Sharing post is useless.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
That's what I've noticed, that it doesn't get any traction. So
well, unless you share it, but with some commentary at the top and something that's interesting or takes the discussion in a different direction.
Maybe, but even then, I didn't have much success in any time of the day, any time of the week, with any number of people that I tagged in it. I try different things. Yeah. And I prefer just not to share, but write my own posts.
Right.
So
do a picture or something.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for like powerful keywords or language that product managers could use in either in their profile or in their posts?
Yeah. So I think if you think about the lazy browser, somebody who's looking through lots and lots of profiles trying to find the needle in the haystack. So things like the job title is really important. If you're a contractor, there are different filters to kind of make yourself discovered as a contractor. So there's a type of work filter, permanent contract, and so on. But no one trusts that. So we use that, but we also try and search for keywords like interim or contractor. So one of the obvious things is in your job title, put product management contractor or interim or whatever. It just makes you more visible. I think we actually did a blog post. It's on our website about this, about power words to use in your resume, and it's the same applies to LinkedIn. I think saying the language is really important. So saying things that you were responsible for, I did this, I did that, as opposed to we or third person. That's really important. There are kind of power words like ownership. I owned, I delivered. Things like that are really important in the content. But the thing that we find turn heads the most is the data reference points. It's data of impact. So think about what you've done in a role and what am I most proud of and what made the biggest impact, and then think, how did I measure that impact? How do I know something was impactful, and what data reference point can you attach? And if you're able to to quote that because it's not confidential, then that's the most powerful thing you can do. So the language is important, and it's the language that's used to find you and discover you. You can use some powerful, words and phrases, but it's the data reference points, I think, that makes people desperate to get hold of you.
Yeah, cool. Now, what about trends about the products that the hiring companies are using? So are they, probably I think in most positions that I've seen in the past, they mention Jira, and they mention, few keywords like that, as if no one knows what Jira is. I think every product manager knows what Jira is, but I actually don't think it is a requirement for a product manager to be a good product manager. But is there any trends that you see these days of specific products that maybe aspiring product managers or product managers that want to move to other positions might want to look into and maybe do a bit of learning on their own?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I don't think so. So very rarely get asked for experience of a certain tool. Okay. So you might have Google Analytics or something, or but not sort of product management tools or tracking tools or anything like that. Most clients want domain experience. So we're doing this. We want we want people who have done something that's similar.
I see.
So similar in complexity, or again, there's a lot of it's lots of debate always about, are product skills transferable from one domain, from one sector to another, B2C to B2B, or across fintech or education or whatever it might be. And I think the barrier from my view is yes, and I think most people probably think yes, it is transferable, because you have this toolbox of product management skills and expertise that you can just apply to a different domain or different environment. I think the argument that B2B and B2C is a bigger barrier to cross, because an environment where maybe you've got an enterprise piece of software and you have face-to-face relationships with your customers versus a SaaS software product that's small, for SMBs that you don't really have that relationship with. And then you've got consumer markets where you never meet a customer, you're just looking at data and how consumers interact with your product. So there are different skill sets there, but sometimes you get regulated industries as well, where clients are quite specific that they must come from a regulated market. And I can understand that, if you're in say pharma or medical tech or something like that, there might be tight legislation around how you describe something or the language you use, which varies across different countries. And in finance as well, there's obviously legislation that is a learning curve, and some people might be frustrated by that. Let alone the time it takes to learn that and climatize in that area.
Yeah, definitely. Being an SME on a specific area versus being a really good product manager are two different things.
Yeah.
And I think that companies has either lenience towards this or that.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like two camps, I guess, out there.
Yeah, and on LinkedIn, I get those take a skill assessment. It's one of the features they have on there. It's asking you to take some quick test to show your fluency in some application that you said that you have a skill in, from someone who's coming out of college, or is that kind of stuff relevant to recruitment?
I don't think so. We don't tend to look at that. I mean, as those tools develop, they might be more used and trusted and so on. But I don't think so. It tends to be more domain knowledge that's important, I would say.
Mm-hmm. But you're right. B2B and B2C and the rest of this B2 something are always, from my personal experience, it's the harder one to actually get into, because there are different dynamics, different ways to do business, different commercial aspects, different stakeholders. So there is a lot of many different things. But the specific vertical or sector is, in my experience, is less of an issue, as long as you have at the company also SMEs in that sector. So you were basically working as a team, and they help you get as much up to speed as you need to, but they're still the experts, right?
Yeah, and I'd say that the type of environment you come from is probably more relevant, because somebody who works for a massive enterprise software business who's looking at an early stage scale up, that's a big shock moving into a different environment where you haven't got all of this infrastructure and tools and teams and everything around you. And if you need something doing, you've got to do it yourself. I think we often see that clients are less fussy about which sector they come from, but they want someone from a similar type of organization in terms of scale.
Interesting. And it's also a matter of cultural fit, and personal fit. Not everyone wants to work in a big enterprise, and not everyone wants to work in a startup. So it should be a good fit also for the candidate that are going actually to be a fit to that organization.
Right. And I think that matters a lot these days with remote work, being a good fit culturally, whether it's in a big company or a small company, because a lot of the work we're doing these days is virtual. So being able to make connections quickly with people is really important. So.
Yeah, I agree, but there's actually a counter movement to that as well, which is hiring for not fit, which lots of people are commenting on, and it's driven by, well, firstly, diversity and inclusiveness, that you don't just try and hire a mirror image of yourself or the rest of the team. But I think there's data coming out now to suggest that hiring for not fit drives performance and outcomes as well, because if you have a group of people that culturally are very similar and probably think the same way, you're not going to have that diversity of ideas. Whereas if you have a room of people that think very differently and argue all the time, you're maybe going to have a broader pool of ideas. But that brings problems for leadership. Managers have to be good at managing conflict and helping people to learn to listen as well as talk, and respect other people's opinions and views. But that's certainly something that we see more, and we see less of organizations saying we're rejecting because they weren't a good enough culture fit. They weren't like us, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I get your point, Matt, about scale of environment, and that's you could say that's culture as well. Because there's sometimes it's really chaotic, like Amazon call it ground, day one, don't they, or day zero, where there's nothing and you have to build something new. And it's chaotic. So that won't suit some people, but other people thrive in that environment.
Excellent point.
Yeah, I think these were all the questions I had. Did you have anything else, Matt, you wanted to ask?
No, this is really helpful. I think we covered a lot of the basics of just get your profile up to date, do iterations on it, make yourself visible and present, even when you're not looking for a job. I think that'll ultimately help you accomplish a positive career in product.
Yeah. And I think if there's one point I'd end on, it's be polite. Be polite. So even if you're approached about something that's not relevant, there are automated responses. You can say it's, not interested right now, or it's not for me. And if you are active and someone comes with something that isn't right, just a couple of comments to say what you are interested in will help them to target the right sort of thing for you. So just be polite with people.
It works both ways for sure. And I've seen on LinkedIn someone that is also very much in recruitment. He did a survey last year about ghosting, and ghosting is a big thing that everyone hates but still do. And that was the number one thing that people said that they're hating, and like huge percentage, I think more than 90% of people said they were ghosted once in their lifetime by a recruiter. So there is also the other side, like you have to be nice to recruiters as well, not just expect them to be nice to you.
I think it helps to respond as well. I actually read where if you respond to recruiters, it's going to give you more recruiters coming to you. So
Interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it does work both ways. And it's something that we always try and do. So we can't respond to every application, because sometimes we might have more than 100 per role. But if someone follows that up, it's our policy that we will respond, even if it's to say, sorry, we have stronger people for this.
That was really great. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. I think we learned a lot, and I hope our audience also learned a lot about, this entire angle of looking for a product management job. And I hope it also helps aspiring product managers. I know they usually have even harder time to get into their first job, but that was really, really helpful. So thank you for that.
My pleasure, Mache. Nice to meet you both.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you, Mache. And we look forward to catching you next time.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.